The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against the world. It is not against people who doubt you. It is not against circumstances or timing. It is against the version of you that hesitates. Every day you wake up with a choice: to rise into discipline or to fall back into comfort, to act with intention or to delay with excuses. No one is holding you back. The limits you feel are internal, not external. You have more control than you think, more strength than you use, more potential than you allow yourself to believe. Your past does not define your ceiling. Your environment does not decide your destiny. Your mindset does. When you avoid discomfort, you avoid growth. When you choose ease over effort, you choose stagnation. The world does not need to defeat you. Distraction will do it for you. Doubt will do it for you. Inconsistency will do it for you, if you allow it. But here is the truth. The same mind that creates fear can create focus. The same body that resists effort can be trained for endurance. The same habits that weaken you can be replaced. You are not powerless. You are untrained. Power is not something you wait for. It is something you claim through action. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your power increases. Every time you break one, it fades. This is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. The strongest people are not those who never fail, but those who refuse to quit on themselves. Stop comparing your journey to others. Their race is not yours. Their pace is not yours. Your only competition is who you were yesterday. If you are tired, rest, but do not retreat. If you fall, rise, but do not surrender. Your future self is watching your decisions today. Every excuse you make delays their freedom. Every effort you make accelerates it. Own your mornings. Own your habits. Own your reactions. Own your responsibility. No one is coming to rescue you. And that is not a curse. It is your power. Because if it is you versus yourself, then victory is always within reach. Decide today to stop negotiating with weakness. Stop waiting for motivation. Start moving with intention. You do not become powerful by thinking about change. You become powerful by acting when it is hard. Stand up. Focus. Commit. This is your moment. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Own your power. The real battle is internal, even though it often feels like the world is working against you. It is easy to point to circumstances, people, timing, or lack of opportunity as the reason progress feels slow. External challenges are visible and convenient targets for blame. But beneath every stalled effort, every unfinished goal, and every repeated pattern lies an inner conflict that quietly determines the outcome. The struggle is not with what stands in front of you, but with what lives inside you. The mind is powerful enough to create limits where none actually exist. Doubt disguises itself as logic, convincing you that waiting is wisdom and hesitation is caution. Fear presents itself as protection, telling you to stay where you are because it feels safe. These voices do not shout, they whisper. They sound reasonable, and because they sound reasonable, they are rarely questioned. Over time, they become familiar companions, shaping decisions without being challenged. Resistance often appears the moment action is required. You may feel inspired, motivated, and clear until it is time to begin. That is when uncertainty rises. Thoughts of failure, judgment, and inadequacy surface. This is not coincidence. Growth threatens the identity you have grown comfortable with. The mind will protect what is familiar, even if it is limiting. That protection can feel like laziness, procrastination, or distraction, but at its core, it is fear of change. Internal conflict is exhausting because it is constant. There is no finish line where it disappears completely. Each new level brings a new version of the same battle. Old habits attempt to reclaim control. Old patterns try to reassert themselves. The difference between those who move forward and those who remain stuck is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in its presence. Self-sabotage is one of the most common expressions of this internal battle. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it appears as overthinking, endless planning, or waiting for the perfect moment. Sometimes it appears as starting strong and stopping suddenly. These patterns are not random. They are strategies the mind uses to avoid vulnerability. If you never fully commit, you never fully risk. The internal battle also reveals itself through comparison. Watching others progress can create a quiet resentment or discouragement. Instead of motivating, it weakens resolve. Comparison shifts focus outward, distracting you from your own responsibility. It becomes easier to feel behind than to face the discomfort of effort. But progress does not come from awareness alone. It comes from engagement. Taking responsibility for the internal battle requires honesty. It means acknowledging that many limitations are self-imposed. This realization can be uncomfortable because it removes excuses. When you accept that you are the common denominator in your outcomes, you also accept that change begins with you. Responsibility is heavy, but it is also empowering. It places control back in your hands. Emotional patterns play a significant role in this conflict. Past disappointments, failures, and criticism can shape expectations. Without awareness, the mind assumes the future will repeat the past. This assumption influences behavior, causing hesitation and withdrawal. Breaking this cycle requires separating memory from prediction. What happened before does not dictate what must happen next. The internal battle intensifies in moments of solitude. Without distractions, thoughts become louder. This is why many people avoid stillness. Silence forces confrontation with self. Yet it is in these moments that clarity emerges. When you face your thoughts without escape, you gain insight into what truly holds you back. Discipline becomes a weapon in this internal conflict, not as punishment, but as structure. Routine reduces decision fatigue and weakens resistance. When actions are pre-decided, emotions lose their influence. Discipline does not eliminate fear, it prevents fear from controlling behavior. Winning the internal battle does not mean defeating yourself. It means mastering yourself. It means understanding your tendencies, triggers, and patterns, then choosing intentionally despite them. This mastery is developed through repetition. Each small act of follow-through strengthens self-trust. Each moment of resistance overcome builds confidence. The internal battle is where identity is shaped. Every time you choose effort over comfort, you reinforce a new self-image. Every time you avoid action, you reinforce the old one. Identity is not changed by intention, but by behavior. Over time, these choices compound, quietly transforming who you believe yourself to be. This battle is invisible to others, but it defines everything. Success and failure are often decided long before results appear. They are decided in moments of hesitation, in private choices, in the discipline of daily actions. When you recognize that the true opponent is internal, you stop wasting energy on external blame. Focus sharpens, effort becomes honest, progress becomes possible. Power is not something that appears suddenly or arrives through inspiration alone. It is built slowly, quietly, through discipline and consistency. Many people wait to feel ready before they act, believing motivation will create momentum. In reality, momentum is created by action, and action is sustained by discipline. Without consistency, potential remains unused, no matter how strong the intention. Discipline is often misunderstood. It is not restriction for the sake of suffering, and it is not about living without joy. Discipline is structure. It is the decision to choose what matters most over what feels easiest in the moment. When you act with discipline, you are telling yourself that your future is worth more than temporary comfort. This decision, repeated daily, becomes power. Consistency is where discipline proves its value. One strong effort can feel impressive, but it changes very little. Real strength is developed through repetition. Showing up once is motivation. Showing up again and again is identity. Each repeated action sends a message to the mind. This is who I am. Over time, that message becomes belief, and belief shapes behavior. Keeping promises to yourself is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect. When you say you will do something and follow through, trust is built internally. When you say you will do something and do not, that trust weakens. This erosion is subtle but damaging. The mind begins to doubt your words, and hesitation increases. Discipline repairs this trust by aligning intention with action. Power grows when actions are no longer dependent on mood. Waiting to feel motivated gives emotions control over direction. Emotions are temporary, but goals require permanence. Discipline creates stability by removing negotiation. You no longer ask how you feel before acting. You act because you decided to. This shift changes everything. Effort becomes reliable rather than sporadic. Consistency also removes the pressure to be extreme. You do not need to change everything at once. You need to change something daily. Small, repeated actions compound into massive results over time. This compounding effect is often underestimated because progress appears slow at first, but consistency does not work in visible increments. It works in accumulation. Discipline strengthens the mind before it strengthens outcomes. Each time you resist distraction, delay gratification, or push through resistance, mental endurance increases. This endurance allows you to remain focused when challenges appear. Without it, obstacles feel overwhelming. With it, obstacles become manageable. Power is not the absence of difficulty. It is the ability to move through difficulty without quitting. Many people confuse discipline with intensity. Intensity burns bright but briefly. Discipline burns steadily. Intensity relies on emotion. Discipline relies on commitment. When intensity fades, discipline remains. This is why consistent individuals outperform talented but inconsistent ones. Talent opens doors, but discipline determines how far you walk through them. Consistency also creates clarity. When actions are repeated, patterns become visible. You begin to understand what works and what doesn't. This feedback allows refinement. Without consistency, there is no reliable data, only guesses. Discipline turns effort into information, and information into improvement. There is discomfort in discipline, especially at the beginning. The body resists effort, the mind resists structure, old habits protest change. This resistance is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of transformation. Power is built in these moments. Each time you choose discipline despite resistance, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen the new one. Over time, discipline reduces reliance on willpower. What once required effort becomes automatic. Habits form. Momentum builds. What was once difficult becomes normal. This is how power becomes sustainable. It no longer feels like force. It feels like alignment. Consistency also protects progress. Motivation fluctuates, but routines remain. On days when confidence is low, discipline carries you forward. On days when doubt appears, structure keeps you grounded. This reliability creates resilience. You are no longer easily derailed by emotion or circumstance. Power rooted in discipline is quiet. It does not seek validation. It does not need recognition. It is internal and stable. This quiet strength is often underestimated because it is not loud, but it is the kind of power that lasts. It does not collapse under pressure because it was built under pressure. Discipline also sharpens focus. When you commit to consistent action, distractions lose their appeal. You become selective with time and energy. This selectivity is a form of power. It allows you to direct effort where it matters most instead of scattering it everywhere. Consistency transforms identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. This shift changes how you approach challenges. You trust yourself to follow through. That trust fuels confidence, and confidence fuels further action. Power does not come from grand moments of inspiration. It comes from ordinary days handled with discipline, from showing up when it is boring, from continuing when progress feels invisible, from choosing effort over ease repeatedly. This is how discipline and consistency turn potential into reality and intention into strength. You are responsible for your future, whether you acknowledge it or not. This responsibility cannot be outsourced, delayed, or avoided without consequence. Many people spend years waiting for a rescue that never comes, someone to motivate them, support them, or create opportunity for them. But growth begins the moment you accept that no one is coming to save you, and that this truth is not a disadvantage, but a source of power. When responsibility is avoided, control is surrendered. Blame becomes a shield, protecting the ego from discomfort, but also blocking progress. It is easier to believe circumstances are unfair than to admit effort has been inconsistent. It is easier to criticize systems than to confront habits. Yet every excuse, no matter how justified it feels, places your future in someone else's hands. Ownership returns it to you. Taking responsibility does not mean denying challenges or ignoring obstacles. It means refusing to let them decide your direction. Conditions are rarely perfect. Waiting for them to be so becomes a permanent delay. Responsibility asks a different question. Given where I am, what can I do now? This question shifts focus from limitation to possibility. Action follows clarity. Responsibility requires honesty. It demands that you look at your daily choices without distortion. How you spend your time, where your energy goes, what you avoid, and what you repeat all shape your future. These choices seem small in isolation, but they accumulate. Responsibility is not about grand declarations. It is about consistent alignment between intention and behavior. Many people fear responsibility because they associate it with pressure. In reality, responsibility creates freedom. When you accept that outcomes are influenced by your actions, you also accept that improvement is possible. You are no longer trapped by randomness. You become an active participant in your life rather than a passive observer. Ownership also changes how you respond to failure. Instead of seeing setbacks as proof of inadequacy, you see them as information. Mistakes become feedback rather than judgment. This mindset accelerates growth because learning replaces avoidance. Responsibility allows you to adapt without self-condemnation. There is also courage in responsibility. It takes strength to admit that change begins with you. This admission removes the comfort of excuses, but replaces it with clarity. You no longer waste energy on resentment or comparison. Focus turns inward, where real influence exists. Responsibility extends beyond goals to behavior and reactions. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond. Emotional reactions shape outcomes as much as actions do. Responsibility means choosing responses intentionally rather than impulsively. This emotional discipline stabilizes progress. Waiting for motivation is another way responsibility is delayed. Motivation is unpredictable. Responsibility creates movement regardless of mood. When you act because it is necessary, not because it feels good, you build reliability. This reliability becomes the foundation of self-trust. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Ownership also clarifies priorities. When you accept responsibility for your future, time becomes valuable. You become more selective. Distractions lose appeal. This selectivity is not restriction, it is direction. Responsibility sharpens focus by reminding you that every choice carries weight. There is a shift that happens when responsibility is fully accepted. Complaints decrease, excuses fade, action increases. You stop asking who should do something and start doing what needs to be done. This shift is subtle but powerful. It marks the transition from dependency to independence. Responsibility does not isolate you from support. It changes how you use it. Instead of waiting for others to lead, you seek guidance strategically. Instead of relying on approval, you seek insight. Responsibility turns collaboration into a choice rather than a necessity. Owning your future also means accepting delayed gratification. Immediate comfort often competes with long-term progress. Responsibility chooses long-term alignment over short-term relief. This choice is repeated daily, often unnoticed by others, but its impact compounds over time. When responsibility becomes your default, confidence follows naturally. Not because everything works perfectly, but because you know you will respond effectively. You trust your ability to adjust, learn, and continue. This confidence is quiet and stable. It does not depend on external reassurance. You begin to understand that your future is shaped less by chance and more by patterns of thought, behavior, and response. Responsibility allows you to identify and change these patterns. Change becomes practical rather than theoretical. There is empowerment in knowing that progress is within reach, not guaranteed, not easy, but possible. Responsibility removes the illusion of helplessness. It replaces it with agency. You move forward not because conditions improved, but because you decided to. The moment you stop waiting to be saved is the moment you step into control. Responsibility is not a burden, it is authority. It is the recognition that while you cannot control everything, you can control enough to change your direction. And that realization alters how you approach every decision that follows. At the end of it all, the truth becomes clear. Your life changes the moment you take ownership of it. The battle was never outside of you, it was within. Power was never missing, it was waiting to be claimed through discipline and consistency. And the future was never someone else's responsibility, it was always yours. When you stop negotiating with doubt, stop relying on motivation, and stop waiting to be rescued, you step into control. Growth begins the moment you choose yourself, commit to your standards, and act with intention. This is not about becoming someone new, but about fully stepping into who you already are. When you own your power, the struggle becomes focus, effort becomes identity, and the path forward becomes undeniable.